Hey, everybody, Mark Herman, a.k.a. LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here, as always, with Jake Circus, my partner in crime from the Jake Circus podcast, and this is week 15?
14.
14 of Jungle Talk. Yeah,
Hooray.
all right. I know we have 5 games left, so I'm like counting down 5. I'm not thinking weeks. I'm just going 5, 4, 3, 2 as we come in. So, all right. Well, this is it. First of all, you weren't part of the recap, but what were your thoughts about the Kansas City game? I mean, that was
That was as good as they could have played. Some stuff didn't go their way in the first half, and they still were they winning at halftime? No, they were down at halftime.
no, they were up
No,
4. They were up
they
4.
were up 4 at halftime. They still went into the break with a lead, and we figured KC was going to lead at one point, and they did. And Bengals do what they do best. They battled back, and it was credit to the coaching staff, the players, everybody stepped up. The Pratt fumble was awesome. The Evans touchdown was great. The Burrow again. I was on the show last week. Joe Burrow is now plus 700 to win the MVP. I got him at 1,800, and so could you if you listened to the show last week. Could have placed that Joe Burrow bet. Now you lost a ton of value. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
listen.
great.
We also talked about, the AFC odds, and you and I were waiting one more week, and instead, they were at 3-1, and they immediately went to like plus 140, and then after last week, the Bengals they're minus 110, and the Ravens are minus 150, so it's pretty
Yeah.
much, so you lost. So I wouldn't do the bet now, but we missed 3-1. It's funny because I had the division odds, and our odds to win the AFC are now down to 10-1.
Yep.
So I got it at 16-1 before the season, and I know that after we went 0-2, it probably was 25 or 30-1. If you had bet
Something
it,
like that. I don't know if
yeah,
it would have jumped that much for the first 2 weeks, but it definitely
we
was
were in
peak value
16.
week 3, I would say. Peak value
Yeah,
week 3.
so timing is everything on these things, but yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we always throw that little bit of gambling because you and I are gamblers, so we always throw that one in there. Just to hit a couple bits of news. Mixon cleared concussion protocol, so we have him back this week. So that'll throw fantasy teams. I have Mixon and P. Ryan, so now I've got to decide to start both or one because P. Ryan's gonna get more touches now, and they're not gonna want to rush Mixon back. So too much. So I don't know. It messes you up fantasy wise, but in terms of us, we're in a good position. Having 2 great backs. I mean, listen, I look at this like Dallas has, Pollard and Zeke.
Sure.
This is a good problem to have. So, and Njoku is expected back for Cleveland. And then on the smallest amount of irrelevant news, the ping pong tables today were removed from the Bengals locker room. So I don't know if that's to show they're more serious or if it was I don't know what the reasoning was, but that was reported today that the ping pong tables are out of the locker room. Hey, before I forget, tell them when they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jake Circus. That's Sirkus. The last name, it's a little funky. It's where most of my Bengals stuff is. I give out all my NFL and college football picks for free. We've been killing it. Had another really good week. We went 9-3 last week against the spread for a lot of units, so that was good. So we're killing it in the NFL. All my picks are for free. And then my podcast, Jake Circus Podcast, on Spotify. You can check that out. Monday's episode, having a gambling episode releasing Saturday morning for week 14 picks. Have a really very good guest on, so peep out for that.
All right, cool. Definitely check out Jake's stuff. And I just want to remind you, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. So hit the notifications, hit the bell. You'll get the notifications. But please subscribe and help us out with the thumbs up. It helps us out in the algorithm over at YouTube. So we'll do what we usually do. We're going to talk about the things we're not feeling good about, things we're feeling good about, and then we'll give our score predictions. I'll give you a list. I have really small things that I don't feel good about, because I really think that this is the week we just crushed the Browns finally, and Joe gets that thing. But I've got, like KC, like us with KC, the Browns seem to have our number recently, so that's troubling. Myles Garrett's always a problem. I mean, this is just like he's another TJ Watt. He's a game wrecker, and we're probably without Hurst this week. So which would be one less target. And then my last one is Deshaun Watson. I know he looked terrible last week, and we're going to talk about that in the good, but he's got nowhere to go but up from last week. And like I said, it's one of those. He looked bad, but this could be the week he ascends and takes a major step. So that's something that bothers me. So that's what I've got. It's a short list, because most of that I have counters to all of that in the good, and we'll get into that. But what do you have that you're not feeling good about?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I think when you look at the schedule and you talk about this for teams, there's always tough spots. This is a sandwich, what I call a sandwich, where your last game was hard, your next game's hard. Bengals road game in Tampa next week. I'll actually be there. That'll be fun.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, it's definitely a tough spot because you really can't look ahead to Tom Brady when you have a really important divisional game right now, and you went all out and beat a team that you really wanted to beat last week. So it really is a scheduling tough spot for them. But I don't think that they're like not focused or anything like that. Because like, look, they want to beat Cleveland so bad. They dominated Cleveland for the middle of the last decade. I think they had like a 8 or 9 game winning streak against them at one point with
Right.
Andy. In the peak years in 2014 and 15 and 2013, they beat Cleveland like every time. But yeah, like they want to do that. So the only bad really that I'm not entirely excited about is the scheduling spot. I don't think it's very, very easy that they have to keep playing these tough spots.
Yeah, well, let's transition. We're going to take this right into the good because, our last loss was to Cleveland. We've run since the Cleveland loss, we've won 4 in a row. And yeah, the first one was against the Panthers, but then we've taken out Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Kansas City in the next 3. So I don't think they're looking past. And, I don't know about you on betting. I'm all over the Bills this week, primarily because I don't believe the Bills are going to lose both games to the Jets. The Bills lost earlier to the Jets. The same thing here. I don't think Cleveland's going to take 2 from us this season. So they're going to be focused. I know that that's kind of in the schedule. It's kind of a trap game, but I don't see them looking past Cleveland at all. Joe wants to shed that 0-4 record against them. So
yeah, I mean, look, the scheduling spots are really hard. I don't think it's a matter of the Bengals not looking past Cleveland. I just think it's a really hard. It's a league where it's really hard to win consistently, and sometimes stuff happens. I also do lean Bills, but history says actually, if you take a team that lost as a dog, or sorry, lost as a favorite, and then you play them again, so a divisional game, you play them again and are a favorite again, it actually the the underdog actually wins more often than not. So I actually ran those numbers earlier today because I was curious. So it's about 48-52. So Vegas does a very good job of setting lines. So it's very rare where you find like a certain system or a trend that has decades of positive data, and this spot isn't necessarily one of them. So we shouldn't really be worried about that. Cleveland beat us last time. They shouldn't be worried about that they beat us last time and now they beat us again. It's normally history says it's a wash. So I'm not really worried about that. But Cleveland has had our number for like the last 3 years.
yeah,
Um, and
but
in
all
2020,
straight.
2020 was Burrow's rookie year. Cleveland made the playoffs that year, but last year getting blown out at home by Cleveland right after
The
losing to
Jet
the
loss.
Jets.
Yeah.
Right after losing to the Jets, they were the first seed in the number 1 seed in the AFC. Then they answered that by losing to the Jets and then getting blown out by Cleveland at home in back-to-back weeks. And then we were like, well, are we good or are we not good? And then obviously it turned out we were good. Now
Right.
we're really good. So this is the best the Bengals have looked up like before a Cleveland game in the Burrow era, which is weird because the last couple times that they've played, the Bengals have always came in with really with a lot of momentum minus the Jets loss because the week before they beat Baltimore on the road by 30 points. So the Bengals have come in with a lot of momentum in these recent games against Cleveland, and they haven't done anything with it. So I'm looking for that to change on Sunday, and I think it will.
Yeah, in terms of you looking at the stats where there was 58, 50, 48, 52 on the second matchups and stuff, that takes into account all the entire league. So it kind of levels out and it becomes, yeah, like a coin flip. But when you look at the Bills, do you honestly think the Bills are going to get swept by the Jets? I don't think so. Do I think the Bengals, this Bengal team, gets swept by the Browns? I don't think so. And Burrow, you have to think after their last loss, which was the last loss this team suffered, this is fresh in their heads to just get this. They want to take that monkey off their back. They want to stomp that monkey. So,
Yeah, and I mean with the Bills, I mean same with the Bengals too. Vegas is giving those teams their respect. I mean the Bills are a 10-point favorite, Bengals are a touchdown favorite. So those teams are getting their respect. Obviously, Vegas thinks that both those teams are going to win. But from a against the spread standpoint is where it's a wash kind of a thing.
oh, yeah, no. And I'm a big money line. We talked about this before we went on the air. I'm a big money line teaser guy. I don't like to let the points get in there. So anytime it's -3.5, I'll take the money line and just parlay with another game. Take two -160s rather than take a team -3.5. That's just how I gamble, and it's worked
You
for
got to
me.
win more often. You got to win a lot more often than you lose for that to be profitable, though. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
but there's usually games on the card every week where I'm not talking about taking 10 together, just talking about taking two. Instead of one, take two. And like I said, so I would parlay the Bills and Bengals money lines this week. I think that's a great bet. So that's just like I said, that's just how I play. Well, the last time these teams met, we didn't have Chase and we didn't have Reader, and our own line was not playing the way it is right now. So, I mean, you look at what Collins was able to do to TJ Watt. I don't worry about Myles Garrett as much as this time. Like I said, this line is playing better. You look at the last three teams they beat. I mean, those were quality wins at Pittsburgh, at Tennessee, and home for Kansas City. Those are big time wins. When you look at who the Browns have beat, they're coming off a game where they didn't score an offensive touchdown.
Yeah,
Their defense, and that was against Houston. We're not Houston. So I feel a lot better about where we are coming into this game than
yeah.
than we were 5 weeks ago.
I think if Brissett was funny enough, I think if Brissett was playing in this game, this point spread would probably be less than it is.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson just did not look like himself. I think we all kind of expected that. I had that I one of my only losses this week was actually Houston. I had Houston plus the points, and they didn't give up a single offensive touchdown. Cleveland didn't even get in the red zone on offense all game, and they got blown out because Cleveland found other ways to score points, so like a punt return touchdown, a fumble return for a touchdown. It was kind
Yeah.
of a mess. But the offense didn't do anything. They were limited on the ground, so it's also a pretty tough spot for Cleveland because they're still trying to figure out, this Watson thing. Obviously, they have to play him, and he just doesn't really look like himself. Now going up against a really good defense, a very smart defense full of intelligent football players that, I think, to say the least, want to show Deshaun Watson the the pain.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he needs to have an official welcome to the AFC North
Welcome to the AFC North.
beatdown
Exactly.
is what he needs. And he escaped. They stole that game last week. I mean, it's not going to matter in the long run because the Browns are not a playoff team, but they stole that. They went into Houston. That's a game Houston could have won if they, especially with the way their defense played. And our defense is a lot better than Houston. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Cleveland is before the Houston game. They did come off of their two best games probably of the season, minus the Bengals game beating Tampa, and then going on the road and having a lead against Buffalo in the fourth quarter. I think. So they've been playing okay as of late, but the Houston game with the first game with Watson was did not go in their favor.
Yeah, and I said on the recap, I talked about because we got to watch the morning games, before the Bengals were afternoon, and I said if you watch say the Cleveland game, I mean Watson had an ugly interception in the end zone when that was the most successful drive, and that's how it culminated. And that got me thinking, well, Lou's got to be able to scheme. I mean, he's clearly not seeing the field. He's been off for 2 years. He's clearly not seeing the field. And I thought, man, we should be able, Lou's got to be able to scheme something where we get a couple picks on Watson this week. That's just my feeling. after watching that game. It's like if Houston can do that, we should be able to do that tenfold, in
Yeah,
terms of
the Bengals don't really blitz much. I'm interested to see if that changes this week. Because normally when Lou blitzes, it's for a purpose. They're very good at it. But they're very good at it because they don't do it often. It's kind of a, you
right.
know, like that kind of thing. But I do think it could certainly be beneficial to see some more blitzes this week and making Deshaun Watson make a read and make a throw because he wasn't able to do that against Houston. They blitzed him a couple times and he just didn't look like he knew what he was doing back there.
Yeah, he looked like a guy who hasn't been back there in a while and isn't
Oh,
seeing the
sure,
field.
sure.
Is it seeing the field? Is it making the reads and the decision? Because these quarterbacks have to throw with anticipation. They have to throw receivers open, and
Oh yeah.
he's not there. And I don't think another week of practice is going to get him there. He practiced for a couple weeks with the team prior than playing against Houston, and he still looked rusty. So like I said, this
Yeah.
is going to be, he needs games under his belt like the rest of the season before I think if we're going to see the Deshaun Watson of old, that's when we're going to see it. It's not going to be this week. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone really in the league is doubting that we're not going to see Deshaun Watson of old eventually, probably by the end of the year. We've talked about this, I guess, since the start of the year when the schedule came out, that this was a good spot to play Cleveland because you weren't going to get no Deshaun Watson both times. So they lost without him. And then now I think this is a pretty good spot in his second game. Like this game could have easily been week 16 or week 17 when he's finding his footing, and then it turns into a must win, and to go next to all the other tough games the Bengals are playing. This is, I think, the last game that the Bengals will play this year where the point spread is over a field goal either way. I doubt they're underdogs the rest of the way, to be honest, unless someone goes down with an injury. But unless they're playing someone else who's injured, the Bengals won't have a game the rest of the year that the point spread is over a field goal.
yeah, I
Because
agree.
Bills
I
will be
agree.
close at home. The Ravens will be inside of a field goal unless Lamar is still out. Maybe that's a 4-point spread. The only one would be New England, but I doubt that line opens up over 3 when the Bengals are going to New England.
Yeah, they're going to be favored against New England, but it's not going to be a lot because it's in New England, and New England's got a stout defense. So, yeah, I see that. If the Bengals are favored, it's going to be, a point and a half, 2.5. I mean, that's going to be it.
They'll be favored.
Yeah.
It's not going to be by much.
No, I agree. I absolutely concur. Yeah, and like I said, Cleveland's defense won the game last week. I don't see them doing that this week. They have been vulnerable to the run a lot against some teams that aren't the Bengals, that don't have a Joe Burrow on their roster. And so I just see us. I think we're going to have to pound the rock a little more this week. And then maybe. So what do you think? I mean, you think you're going to see? I think we're going to see more running game this week.
Yeah, this Joe Woods led defense is atrocious. They're bad up front outside of Myles Garrett, and even he can't really put on a Superman cape and
Yeah.
change the run defense. They are dead last in EPA per play, stopping the run. The secondary has been really bad. Denzel Ward has had the worst year of his career. This rookie named Martin Emerson is totally outplaying him. Greg Newsom's been playing okay too, the rookie or second-year player from Northwestern that I really liked and was really upset when they took him in round 1 a couple of years ago. Clowney's okay, but the back end is, I think, like there's 2 ways that the Bengals can attack this defense, and I think they're going to do both.
Right.
The back end has been bad. Up front's been even worse. So this is a perfect spot for the Bengals to kind of introduce their brand new shiny 1-2 punch in the backfield with Perrine and Mixon.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And we should be able to score both ways. The reason why I talk about the run game more also is weather has a chance of being an issue on Sunday. And it's nice that we're going to be able to fall back, or that we're playing a team that's susceptible to the run. We're getting Mixon back, so we do have the 1-2 punch. So if it is ugly, we can lean on that. I think we pull this game out. I'm not betting the over/under until I see the weather reports, because I think this could be a higher scoring game. But currently it's at, I think, 49.5. But I think it's going to be, I mean, I'll go under if the weather's bad, but then the line will change. So I always hold off to game day to do the over-unders.
Yeah.
But that's where I see things at. All right. Well, with all that said, give me your score.
All right, so I I bet the Browns +6. I I think it's gonna be close. Um, but Bengals win 27-24. I'll just 24 27-24.
27-24. Okay, well, I have us as 27-20. Um, and I think that there's going to be like a cheap score late that we're just going to take our foot off the gas and let them score. I think we take care of this game. I don't see the Bengals losing focus in this game. I think Joe wants it. It's like I said, I we can hit them from both sides. This defense is not as good, and we're better. We're a lot better than we were when these teams met, 5 games ago. I Reader
I
back. I think Reader stuffs up the middle on Chubb. I think our offensive line takes care. You got to remember the Bengals moved the ball on their opening drive in that Cleveland game. They moved the ball downfield, and then Myles Garrett got the tip pass that led to the interception, and that kind of turned the whole game. The Bengals looked like they were going to jump out to the
Oh
early
yeah.
lead and start, and that way you start the game sets the tone for the game.
Yeah, I just think 6 points is a lot in this league.
Right.
Um, the Bengals have a really, 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 really hard schedule. Um, and my thing is when I like when I have any sort of doubt and the line is big, I'll just take the dog. Kind of what I did this week. I know the sharps are on Cleveland. The line's already under 6 now. It's gonna keep going down. Probably will close at 5, 4.5. I got +6. I don't think the Browns win the game outright, but 6 points is a lot of breathing room to not only for me to win this bet, but also have the Bengals win.
Yeah, well, I have, like I said, I'm a teaser money line guy. Money line was, ridiculous because it's a 7 point spread. So I teased him. So I've got the Bengals. I'm not giving points on any of my Bengals bets. I've got the Bengals on multiple teasers. To me, that's just a slam dunk. I don't see us not winning this game. I think if unless God forbid injury, things like that. But I think we handle this game. I think this is the week that the monkey gets stomped on. I really think they rip it off the back and they stomp on him in the locker room, and that's the end of the monkey. So I think they finally get to do that this week. So
I will say one thing before we go because I remember you talked about a Bengals Bills money line parlay. So about 6 or 7 weeks ago, this is a pretty good story. But 6 or 7 weeks ago, I have accounts with a lot of the offshore books for betting, and I opened up one of them, and I saw that I had a $50 free play bonus. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like I haven't bet on the site in like 2 years, so I don't even know why I had it. But I was like, all right, that's cool. So I use it all on one bet, and I told myself, all right, if I keep winning, I'm just gonna keep rolling it over with one pick per week. So you can do the math. I haven't lost yet, and my bet this week is the Bengals Bills money line parlay. I don't do parlays ever, but this is like house money. So I'm like, okay, both teams will win. So it's
well, all right.
it's so it's risky, but that's I haven't lost yet.
Yeah, well, like I said,
So
and
we'll see.
I know that it's 50-50 against the spread when you're dealing with the entire NFL, when you're looking at all the second games of the year. But when you're looking at teams like the Bills, like the Bengals, when they lose the first one, I mean, these are playoff teams, and playoff teams don't get swept by division rivals in the same season. They just don't.
Yeah.
So that's my thinking there. It's like that if you looked at those odds, if you somehow could, I know we don't have the software to do that, but if you looked at those stats, I think you'd see the numbers a lot skewed much more favorably to the team that lost the first time. That's the playoff team. So, that's just me. They call it gambling because it's hard. Okay. If it were easy, they would just call it easy. But they don't call it easy because it's not. So,
What
like
I
I said,
always tell people when they tell me that, they found the secret or they figured it out, and I tell them, how do you think Vegas has all those skyscrapers that they keep on building? Where
yeah,
where do you think that money comes from?
I would say look at
Think
Vegas.
about
That
that.
was not built by the winners. So just look at Vegas, look at Atlantic City, look at any of these gambling places. The winners didn't build it. And since it's like you said, just look at it. So,
Take one
um,
look and think about where that funding come from. Come from.
so but strategically play, like we're all trying to beat the system, just like the stock market and all that. It's you got to go with your hunch, your gut. So that's where I'm at. All right. Well, we will be back with a recap right after the game this week. Hopefully we're blowing the victory horn, tooting the Mighty Ducks quacker, doing all that stuff we do. I don't know if Jake, if you're going to be available, love to have you with us. I know Sundays, it's a game time decision, but if not, but please, like I said, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask, and hit the thumbs up. Jake, remind them where they can get all your stuff.
Yep, Twitter at Jake Circus, Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. Gambling episode for week 14 coming out Saturday morning.
All right, so we check into that. We will hopefully we're blowing the victory horn, and this is win number 5 in a row for us. So that's what we're looking for. So with that, I'm going to say, "Hoo day, everybody!" And we'll talk to you after the game. Take care.